There are certain things that aren't allowed to be broadcast on live television, from obscene swearing to nudity to excessive violence. All of these have appeared at some point or another during their established history of WWE's live programming. Although these moments were common during WWE's Attitude Era, they have also occurred during the more tame Ruthless Aggression Era and PG eras in WWE. But which moments were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 moments WWE was forced to censor. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Mae Young at the 2000 Rumble. Now, the Royal Rumble pay-per-view in 2000 is widely regarded as one of the best pay-per-views of the Attitude Era. It featured classic matches such as Triple H vs Cactus Jack and the Dudley Boys vs the Hardy Boys. Outside of these matches, there was a segment on the show that featured the women of the WWE competing in a swimsuit contest. It was a true train wreck, and it got considerably worse when the infamous Mae Young appeared and decided to rip off her outfit, exposing everything. Even though there were prosthetics, the replay would have to censor this controversial moment, but the rather raunchy moment didn't sit well with pay-per-view providers, especially in the UK. The UK network Channel 4 were furious with WWE and were baffled how WWE would allow something like this to air on pay-per-view, even though this happened at around 2 AM in the morning. This forced Channel 4 to air all future pay-per-views with a delay, allowing them to edit out anything they felt was inappropriate for their viewers. Now, Channel 4 for the UK viewers was a double-edged sword. It would be free television, but that meant that the pay-per-view would have ad breaks in between. Number 9. Nia Jax screams "My hole." Now, the lackluster feud between Nia Jax and Lana dominated WWE programming throughout 2020 and 2021. Despite the awful nature of the storyline on offer, it did feature one memorable moment that forced WWE to censor Nia. During a match between the two on Raw, Nia would miss a leg drop on the apron, and she decided to randomly shout out, It was hilarious, and fans watching at home were in total disbelief as to what they just heard. The WWE naturally censored the moment in all preceding replays, but it didn't take away from the fact that this was one of Nia's most memorable moments during her entire run in the company. That says a lot. Number 8. Brock Lesnar loses it at WrestleMania 34. WrestleMania 34 wasn't the best outing for Brock Lesnar. He competed in the main event against Roman Reigns, but the match was met with heavy criticism from fans. The match would be hijacked from the fans in attendance, as they had very little desire to see it take place, and as the main event title match went on, Lesnar gradually got more and more frustrated. As the match slowly turned into a finisher fest, Lesnar began to hit F5 after F5 on Reigns to try and get the fans invested in the match, but it simply didn't work. But after one specific F5 attempt, Lesnar screamed, "F5! Heyman and Lesnar in disbelief!" But the WWE were quick to censor Lesnar's outburst. Number 7. Charlotte Flair flips the fans off. And the Money in the Bank pay-per-view in 2021 was a special pay-per-view for fans. It was the first pay-per-view to feature a max capacity audience since early 2020, and it featured a fantastic crowd who were delighted to finally see the WWE product live in the flesh once again. But one of the stars that fans wanted to see at the pay-per-view was Becky Lynch, as Becky had been absent from WWE television for the majority of the pandemic, and they couldn't wait to see her back on screens. But during the Charlotte Flair vs Rhea Ripley match, fans would begin to chant for Becky, but this didn't sit well with the multi-time champion, who decided to flip the fans off.
It just motivated Ripley to one day face and defeat the Queen.
Wait a minute. WWE quickly censored the moment the best they could, but it was clear that the fans chanting for someone not featured in the match clearly struck a nerve with the multi-time women's champion. Number 6. Daniel Bryan gets exposed. Daniel Bryan is one of the most gifted technical wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots, but even someone such as Bryan isn't immune to an attire malfunction. At the 2020 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, the opening match featured Bryan taking on Drew Gulak. The match was an excellent showcase of both their skills, but it featured a notable malfunction. As Bryan was being suplexed over the top rope, one of his balls popped out of his trunks. WWE were quick to censor that exposed body part, and they would later change the camera angle for the replay of the match, meaning there was no longer any need for censorship. A similar thing would later happen in the match, as when Bryan was being dragon suplexed from the turnbuckle, it once again popped out, and WWE decided to take the same measures they did with the previous moment. Number 5. The WWF logo. In 2002, WWF were forced to change their name to WWE. This was due to the Worldwide Fund for Nature winning ownership of the WWF name, and as a result of this legal battle, it meant that WWE had to censor absolutely everything that featured the classic scratch logo. Now the issue here was that WWE was big on branding, so they had stuck this classic logo on virtually everything in sight. This had become a huge problem, as whenever WWE aired any old footage from days gone by, they were forced to blur the logo. Fast forward to 2012 and they were finally allowed to once again use the popular logo. WWE were then allowed to show the logo in a historical sense, but using the logo in any new content was strictly forbidden. Number 4. Vince McMahon breaks his own guidelines. WWE superstars are traditionally forced to follow scripted material when delivering a promo, and one thing that is strictly forbidden is going off script to throw curse words into a promo. One individual who set the standard for this is WWE Chairman Vince McMahon, but in 2016 he decided to randomly curse during a promo on Raw. This promo took place when Shane McMahon had returned to WWE. Vince informed Shane that he would be facing the legendary Undertaker at WrestleMania 32 inside the dreaded Hell in a Cell. He would then inform Shane that he was going to get this.
Have a fucking beating, okay? Beating right in the face.
This would be censored on live broadcast on the show, and later replays of the show would edit out the line entirely. Number 3. Spike TV censor the WWE chairman. The WWE Homecoming show in 2005 saw WWE return back to their home at the USA Network. The relationship between WWE and Spike TV had broken down substantially, as on the Raw before the WWE was set to move to USA, Vince McMahon cut a promo promoting the move, and the Spike TV network censored Vince every single time that he mentioned the rival network.
This week, Monday Night Raw returns back.
This seemed insanely petty on behalf of Spike, and Vince reportedly ordered the Raw commentary team to name drop the USA Network at every opportunity they could. And at first, Spike actually decided to censor the Raw commentary team, but they eventually gave up when the commentary team were persistent in getting the message across Raw was moving to a brand new network every 5 minutes. Number 2. Brock Lesnar goes off script. The past draft landscape at WWE in 2016 resulted in talents who had traditionally struggled on television receive that all-important television time to showcase their skills. One of these talents was Heath Slater, who had become a free agent, and he was involved in some downright memorable segments which really showed that Slater had a ton of potential. One of the most memorable segments during this run for Slater saw him interrupt Brock Lesnar. He would inform Lesnar that he needs to acquire a WWE contract to support his kids, and this is when Lesnar informed Slater that
I don't give a about your kids.
This was censored out of the live broadcast on Raw, and the line wasn't actually in the initial script for the show. Lesnar randomly decided to go off script in order to enhance the segment, and it certainly did just that. And number 1, Randy Orton flips the bird. Now, although the build to WrestleMania 31 wasn't the strongest, the build towards Seth Rollins and Randy Orton's match on the grandest stage delivered some fantastic segments. One of these took place on the 9th March 2015 edition of Raw, as Rollins and Orton would team up to face Roman Reigns in a handicap match, and when Rollins went for a tag, Orton proceeded to flip the bird towards Rollins. It received a thunderous reaction from the live crowd, and due to WWE being a PG product, it was censored. WWE aren't a fan of talent flipping the bird, and it was reportedly during WrestleMania 38 that the WWE production team ordered Stone Cold Steve Austin that he wasn't allowed to flip the bird, but Stone Cold, being Stone Cold, naturally ignored the demand. It's unclear if Orton went off script during the segment, as during the replay of the show, this moment would be edited out so fans couldn't actually see the Viper's hands. Either way, it was a great moment that took the feud to the next level. But there you have it, folks, 10 moments WWE were forced to censor. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.